Lindy, any chance we see Sam Carrick tonight, or is game 2 more likely?
We really haven't put a date on it. Tonight could be a possibility.
Lindy, when excuse me, at the start of a series or after you've been off for a little while, what do you need to see from your team to know they're on their game?
Well, I think first thing is managing the puck. If we're getting it in behind the D and we're forechecking the way we did, even like Game 6, I know we're on our game. We're getting up the ice, we're breaking the puck out well, and we're getting it in behind.
Good. Lindy, just in the spirit of the changing of the guard here with these two teams playing in the second round, it's the first time since 2019 that neither of the Florida teams is here. What do you see in terms of parallels between the two teams and their youth and their talent that makes this an exciting series in your mind?
Yeah, I think the first thing you mentioned was youth. The energy that both teams, our team and their team have, high-end skill. I mean, Montreal's got a couple dynamic defensemen. We've got, good part of our offense is driven by that top 4 of our defense, and goaltending on both teams has been good, and I think that's a winning recipe.
Hey, Lindy, over here to your right. Young teams often, when you mention puck management as being so important, that's always a process with younger teams. Both of these teams, I think, are able to produce off the rush and maybe kind of use that a lot in the regular season. How have you seen your team's risk management evolve, and definitely in the first round, if you saw a definite step in that direction?
Yeah, I think all the numbers indicate that our defensive play, our play away from the puck, high danger rush opportunities. We've limited, 2 or 3 that Pasternak got where he got behind us or off changes, not really structure plays, but I think the playoffs is really a different animal where you can look at your top players. If your top players don't have the puck that much, they might have the puck at less than a minute. So what are you doing when you don't have it? How hard are you to play against? And I think it becomes a focus for every player that, gets the opportunity to play in the playoffs and now gets the opportunity to play in another round.
Lindy, there was a lot of focus that, you guys didn't have a ton of playoff experience, but Alex Tuch has, he went on those runs with Vegas. He had a great series against Boston. Just what stood out about the way he handled himself and the way he was able to, make an impact?
Yeah, I think, again, that he has been there, that he has an advantage over other players. I think you should be able to, balance the emotions a lot better because you've been there. Kind of the highs of winning a game, and then when you lose, you have that feeling, are we going to win again? You got to go in the other team's building. Some of our players hadn't experienced that. So, a lot of emotions you have to deal with that, Alex had dealt with before, and, I think that led to real consistent play from, the start of the series right to the end.
Lindy, you spoke many times during the year about how Byram played very well for you during the season. I remember even as a rookie when he won the Cup with Colorado, how he elevated his game in that series, and it just seemed like in the Boston series he was even better. Did he elevate his game even more in the Boston series?
I believe he did. I think the playoffs is all about elevating your game. That there's a level you get through during the regular season because you're catching teams. Sometimes it's your advantage. Maybe 4 games in 6 nights. You got back-to-back games. You can take advantage of those situations. Playoffs, the table is the same for both teams. We're going to play every other night. We know what they're going to bring. You get to know every player pretty well from our team to their team, and the guys that stand out are the ones that reach a level above where they're usually at, and I think he has done that. You know, you talk to your team, I've talked to our team about there's a regular season level of play and there's a playoff level. There's a desperation level when you're trying to close out a series that you got to reach that is even greater than just a normal playoff game. But I think in Bo's case, you know, he's had some experience. He just welcomes this opportunity to be back in the playoffs. He loves the opportunity and really just trying to take advantage of it. And has he elevated his play? I think he has.
Your team is bigger and heavier than the Montreal Canadiens. Is there a challenge in finding the right spot and using this advantage without being overly enthusiastic and crossing the line and spending a lot of time in the box?
I got to be careful when I'm answering questions about bigger, stronger teams. You know, I don't, you know, when you look at, I look at it this way, a lot of times size doesn't matter. It's the will to win the battles. They just knocked out a heck of a team. It had nothing to do with size. It had to do with finding a way to win a game. And you don't always have to be the best team inside that game to win. But you can catch a hold of something that'll allow you to win the game. I don't talk about size at all. I haven't spent one word talking about size or our size is going to make a difference. I talk about will, compete, and getting to a new level, getting to a greater level of play. Can you get yourself to a greater level of play that is going to be higher than the guy you're playing against? And I think that really is what this time of year is about, not about. I've seen smaller guys knock the bigger guy on his ass, so size doesn't mean a damn thing. It's the will to go in and compete on it.
Lindy, we talked a little bit days ago about how the team handled playing at home and maybe they're getting a little bit too excited, a little bit too fired up for things. What's that adjustment going to be like tonight for them? It's going to be a little bit more spirited.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be another test for us. Obviously, we won 3 on the road, and you know we played a good game 5, but let the overtime slip away from us. It was a highly competitive game. You know, being ready to play at home is every individual player has his way of preparing, and I think you stay with your program. You don't try to do too much. You don't add too much to your schedule. Whatever works for you, you make that work. Can you get too fired up? I think you can. I would probably take that player over the guy that, you know, maybe isn't fired up enough. So we'll work on that if that happens.
Lindy, in getting ready for this series, obviously Tampa Bay did some very good things against Montreal. You might think, well, we could apply some of what they did, but where do you draw the line between identifying what worked for Tampa against Montreal in the first round without changing anything in the way you do things?
Yeah, again, I look at what makes us effective. We don't have the same players as Tampa. So, you know, what they did with their players and how they played is their thing, and what we do with our guys and how we play has to be our thing. We're not going to try to copy Tampa or watch film and say, boy, if we do what this player did for Tampa, we're going to be a lot better team. We were a good team playing our game. I thought we probably started last series off not quite on our game. We got to get to our game a lot quicker in this series than we did. I thought games 3 and 4 set the tone for the series, and game 1 we had to battle to the bitter end to come ahead with the victory. So we got to get to our game quicker in this series for sure. I mean, Tampa's a great team. The way they play is a great style. They've had a lot of success, and you know, we're building our culture and our style of play, and that's what we're going to stick with.
Hey, Lindy, just over here again, just in the middle. I saw that you mentioned yesterday that they have obviously a guy on their blue line in Hudson that's hard to keep track of and presents some challenges. I'm just wondering structurally, when a player is that unpredictable. Like, what are some of the structural challenges he presents, and what are some of the priorities that you give to your guys in terms of when he's on the ice, what they have to pay attention to?
Yeah, I think we talk about a heightened awareness when, the other team's top defenseman, if he's a high-end skill, mobile, Hughes-like, Hudson-like type player that, we talk contain, be ready to contain and don't overextend yourself. There may be an opportunity where you get some help from one of your teammates, because that type of player can usually expose you by themselves. So if you make the right read and you pick off a play where they're putting risk in their game, the positive side for us is we may be able to create something going the other way if we defend those type of players and create the turnover that allow us to go up ice.
Lindy, your team had 4 or 5 days off, full days off between games. How did that long stretch of games help the team instead of rushing into a game, from game 7 to game 1 of the second round? Was your team refreshed? Was there a little anxiety? Did you just kind of go with the flow?
I think it allowed us to take a breath and reset. Get away from the game for a day, practice, and again, get some rest. We took another day that we didn't go on ice, but just a reset. For a day, it gave them a little bit more time to enjoy what they just went through. What more could you want? You just won a series, and now instead of jumping right into the other one, you can take a breath and you can maybe go to dinner. You can enjoy it. You can enjoy it with your friends and family, and then these last couple of days, the focus was on let's get ready to play.